Hello and a very moist welcome back to the channel of nonsense. I'm in a Volkswagen ID.7. I've already activated its voice commands. Doing my intro, please go away. I was hoping you were going to be an electric Volkswagen that didn't annoy me, but it's annoying me already. But anyway, sorry, back to the script. I'm hoping this is going to be the electric Volkswagen that redeems itself, because I can't really recommend the ID.3 and ID.4 to people that want a car because they just annoy me. They're mostly okay, but there are bits in the infotainment on the steering wheel that just get my goat. And hopefully Volkswagen has fixed all of that in this, the ID.7. So we're going to cut to me in a lay-by, getting a bit wet, and I'll tell you if this new £55,000 flagship electric car is any good, or if it's like the other ones. They've made a nice looking strawberry jelly and accidentally dropped all their toenail clippings in it before they stuck it in the fridge. Let's find out. That was weird. Might keep that one in there. Sorry, that bit about the toenail clippings was probably unnecessary. So what is the ID.7? Well, as I've said, it's Volkswagen's flagship electric car. It's an all-electric saloon, and in terms of size, it is 4.93 meters long. And have you forgotten your lengths of cars? How dare you? It is longer than a Model 3, it's longer than a Passat Estate, and it's bigger than a Polestar 2 as well. So it's quite a chonky boy, and there's going to be an estate version coming later on as well. In terms of looks, I think it looks a little bit anonymous, personally, but I know looks are subjective, that's why I wear this coat. It does look a little bit like an Audi e-tron GT, except you bought it from Woolies rather than John Lewis. It's got a light bar across the front which lights up at night along with the headlights. It does look very fancy. It's got LED headlights, but yeah, it's a bit amorphous, like me when I accidentally see myself in the mirror when I'm in the shower and I go, ugh. Right, just in case you've not vomited fully into your cornflakes with that image, I'm going to continue that analogy of me in the shower, because it's also very slippery. 0.23 is the coefficient of drag on this. That is much better than most EV SUVs, and that means the 77 kilowatt hour battery in this launch version should be able to go on paper 382 miles. Normally you get about 280 miles from an equivalent SUV with the same size battery pack. So they've got an extra 100 miles out of this on paper by making it slippery. So it's got flush door handles, and although it looks low to the ground, that's because it's got black side skirts. And even if you've not got a black car, they're black at the bottom to make it look squatter. Whereas in reality, it's quite high. It's like a BMW 7 Series because you've got all those batteries under the floor. Around the back, it's rear wheel drive. Obviously you can't see that, but imagine this wheel spinning and disappearing down there in a burnout. Rear wheel drive on these launch models. There's going to be a dual motor version coming soon, but obviously that'll be less efficient. Yeah, it's an interesting shape. It'll be interesting to see what the shooting brake looks like. They did that with the Arteon. I really like the look of that car. This, I'm slightly less sure of. Around the back, you've got the charging flap, that's over there. This one can charge at 170 kilowatt maximum. The bigger battery, that's the 86 kilowatt hour battery that's coming out later in the S model, will be able to charge at 200 kilowatts, which is faster than you probably need or have chargers for. And I should point out the 382 miles of range that this small battery version can get is more than a Tesla Model 3 long range. And the bigger battery version can do over 430 miles on a charge. So this is, on paper at least, a very, very efficient EV, which I like to see. What I'm not so keen on though is the light bar across the back. To me, it looks like a rip-off of the Peugeot 508 or something like that. It's just, again, a bit, I don't know, I feel like Volkswagen hasn't quite found their feet with their electric design language. The boot though is a decent size, 532 litres. It is large, it goes back that way, a long way. It's almost Skoda Superb like in its length, but what it isn't is very deep that way. You've got a bit of underfloor storage there for a charging cable, but there isn't a big well to stick your stuff in. There aren't really any clever features other than a 12-volt socket and some hooks for your stuff. And they do call this a saloon, but technically I think it's actually a hatchback or a liftback, but whatever. That is a big space. Let's check out the rest of the interior. Dogging. Right, let's talk about backseat space in the ID.7. First thing I noticed is the rear windows do drop all the way down, which is quite nice. And there's also not a child lock on it at the moment, which is good. You've got light up door panels here, ambient lighting, Alcantara here. You've got felt lined rear door pockets. So for backseat passengers, it's actually properly thought out. Now, that seat is as low as it will go, which is my driving position. And my feet only just about fit under there. So it's a bit tight with the batteries. Headroom is good, knee room is obviously really good, and there's no hump in the middle of the floor. The middle seat is quite wide, and I've got 2 USB-Cs down here and climate controls. So yeah, the seat back is at a nice angle, and I'd be pretty comfortable doing long journeys in here if it stops beeping at me. Oh yes, and I should mention, if you are going to use this as a family car, the ISOFIX points are really easy to get to. They're just hidden behind some plastic flaps which do stay attached so you don't lose them. Right, I've hopped behind the camera to show you where the ID.7 really hopes to redeem Volkswagen. That is in the cabin and the user experience. So the big news here are the seats, which I'll speak about in the driving bit, but they're heated as standard, they're massage as standard. You can upgrade them to ventilated ones and with more massage stuff. You've got a massive, reasonably new 15-inch infotainment screen, which is actually a real pleasure to use, I can report. It's very straightforward. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You can put custom shortcut buttons there at the top, so you can very quickly get to some of the car's functions, which I'm going to try and do without making it go all wobbly for you. But there you go, you can see, ooh, I've only been getting 2 kilowatt hours per mile. That's changed. I was getting 3.5. You can change your driving modes here, so Eco, Comfort, Sport, and if you go into individual, you can customize the majonkas out of it, driving dynamic steering, drive, exterior sound, etc, etc. It's very easy to turn off the speed warning. It's just 2 taps, it's one there, and you press this button at the bottom like in the big Touareg, and you get back to this screen here. It is quick, it's responsive, I do like it. What I'm not so pleased about is the IDA, which is the voice command assistant, which activates all the time if you're in the habit of speaking to cameras in cars. I know that's pretty niche, but it happens to me a lot. Now, unlike the upcoming facelifted Mark 8.5 Golf, we've still got the haptic buttons on the steering wheel. I'm kind of used to them now. What I don't like though, is that you're missing the up and down one over here, because there are no functions for it to control, because you've only got this very small digital driver's display there, which just shows you your speed, the speed limits and things like that. You have got a nice head-up display, which is standard. I'll talk about that on the driving. But yeah, it's a comfortable cabin. You've got decent storage down here. You've got a wireless phone charger, and if I unsheath these cup holders, you can see they're a weird, funky shape. I can't even say weird. That's a really deep bin there. You've got usual trays and stuff in there. One thing that has disappointed me about this cabin, and I am going to whinge, is the glove box. Look at this. Yes, perhaps the most annoying bit of the ID.7's interior. Get ready to play the French national anthem. They've nicked Peugeot's worst idea, and that is a half-width glove box. That's just stupid. Why? Sometimes you get this in French cars that are right-hand drive because the fuse box goes here. This is just, I don't know. Yeah, fuse box. I should probably put that back, but that is just annoying and unacceptable in my book. In a car this big, you couldn't put that somewhere else, Volkswagen. That's just lazy. I've just spotted there is some extra storage under there as well, and obviously the front door bins are also felt lined. Right, that's my walk around done. One last quick ID.7 fact. The air conditioning is meant to mimic that in the Volkswagen Phaeton, which was especially designed to be draftless. So just a gentle wafting of air from like a giant badger that's being continuously stepped on and breathing on you. But anyway, let's take the ID.7 for a drive, and I'll wait for these hallucinogenics to wear off, and I'll tell you what it's like. I'm not really on drugs. I'm just weird. I'm tired. Don't have children. Yeah, how does the ID.7 drive? Well, the first thing you notice when you get in it is that you've got more headroom than in a Hyundai Ioniq 6. I'm not banging my head every time I do a lifesaver. Yet at the same time, I'm not sitting as low as in a conventional combustion powered car like a Passat or the Volkswagen Arteon that I ran last year for 6 months. The seat is on its lowest setting, and frankly I could go a little bit lower. So yeah, you are aware that you're sitting on some battery packs. Now, performance, I've got about 282 horsepower, and it is rapid in the mid-range. It's fast enough. I don't think we're going to need the dual motor version for extra fastness, frankly, when that comes out. It's bogging at me because it's a 2024 car and it's got to have a speed limit warning as standard. However, it is 1 press, not looking at the road, 2 presses, not looking at the road. It is now off with 2 presses, which is quite nice. That is quite good, frankly, so I can't whinge too much about that. Now, as you might expect, a big, heavy electric car, I can't remember the weight, I'll stick it up there. It doesn't feel like a sports car, but it grips and goes around corners well enough with actually a pleasing amount of body roll. It kind of reminds me of something a little bit like a Mercedes S-Class. It feels like it's more set up as a limousine rather than trying to be an M5 or something like that. And I quite like that. And having just driven it across Milton Keynes, coming to lots of stop-start traffic, the brake pedal and the accelerator are nicely softly damped. So you feel a bit of a chauffeur pulling away and coming to a stop. There's no grabbiness in the brake pedal, and that sounds like a really nerdy thing, but it does make it feel relaxing. Also, I think I've mentioned it already, these seats are noticeably more comfortable than in any other Volkswagen. They are new, they're exciting as far as seats can go. They are heated as standard, they are massage as standard. You can upgrade them to have more massaginess and ventilation as well to cool your nethers on a particularly lusty drive to a lay-by, which is what I'm doing now. But yeah, it's rear wheel drive. You do sense that a little bit coming out of corners. If you put your foot right down, you feel it not rotating, but being pushed from the back, which I quite like. Again, it makes it feel like an old school Mercedes. But yeah, it's okay. Now, perhaps the biggest downside to the way this drives is the suspension. It's just a little bit too fidgety and disturbed by broken road surfaces. And considering this does remind me of a big luxury limousine, my bum is not expecting to feel, what's this, a squirrel? Let's run that over. Yeah, I felt that. It had acorns for breakfast, I could tell you, and Domino's pizza. But yeah, I shouldn't be able to feel that from the seat, and I can. So that's a bit of a letdown. Otherwise though, refinement's pretty good. There's not too much wind noise, there's not too much tyre noise. It's not as silent as a BMW iX. That costs quite a bit more money than this, so you might expect that. Now, because I've only got this car for a day, I can't really talk about efficiency with any kind of authority, but I'll tell you that I'm already getting pretty well over 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and I've been hooning this out of roundabouts, trying to feel what it does when you boot it and all that kind of stuff. So if you drive this more efficiently, I've got no doubt that this will get more like 4 miles per kilowatt hour. And this has got 77 kilowatt hour battery, and when I first got in this, it had 95% charge, and it was saying 320 miles, which is pretty blooming good considering it's only about 6 degrees outside. So yeah, it should be efficient, and obviously there's a bigger battery one coming that claims over 420 miles of range, and if this is to be believed, I believe that as well. Does that make sense? That's a lot of believing, having faith in cars. They are just metal, glass, rubber. Why should I believe that? I didn't trust the last person that came to me with a load of rubber. Another thing that's worth mentioning on the ID.7 is the augmented reality head-up display. It's almost vital because your driving display down here barely shows you any information at all other than your speed and your cruise control settings, your range and your battery status. That augmented reality will highlight the lines in the middle of the road when you cross over it. And if the road curves, the line in the head-up display curves to match the road. It's very clever. We have seen it before in other Volkswagen Group products, but it's a nice feature. This is a really horrible, bumpy bit of road, and the ID.7's not really settling, and it's kind of making me feel a bit queasy over repeated bumps. You get that typical EV sense that there's loads of weight down low, but the car's not really controlling it, and it's been passed on to my 3 chins that I've gained over Christmas. So, yes. Doesn't iron out the sharp bumps particularly well, this car. And when it gets on a unsettled bit of smooth bumps, it's making me feel a bit queasy. Bit of a tangent, but the last time I remember driving along these roads was in another Volkswagen. It was in a Volkswagen Mark 7 Golf GTI Clubsport S, the one without rear seats. And I was laughing, I was cackling, I was marvelling that sensible German men somewhere in Wolfsburg had come up with this madcap hot hatch. And now I'm in this, and it's fine. I'm trying to be open-minded, but I wish I was in that. Slightly different markets, I guess. 2-seat hot hatches with loud exhausts versus electric limos, saloons. One thing I quite like about the ID.7's cabin is they haven't bothered giving you stupid flappy paddles behind the steering wheel like you're an R8 or something like that. Instead, you activate the extra regeneration setting by twisting the gear knob away from you. It does mean you only get one amount of regenerative braking. You can't switch between different levels, but it works well enough, frankly, and it's almost like a one-pedal driving mode. Quite like it. And I don't have paddles pretending I'm in a sports car, which makes the steering wheel nicer to hold, actually. It's a little flat-bottom sporty number. Now, if you're like me, you like your tunes, and I have to report the basic sound system in this car doesn't sound very basic at all. It's thumping, it sounds quite good. My Taylor Swift is coursing through my veins, although not now for YouTube copyright reasons. There is an upgraded Calm and Hard-On sound system with, I think, 14 speakers and a subwoofer, and I imagine that will be a better choice if you are really into yo bass, but this entry-level one is decent. But anyway, that's probably enough about how the ID.7 drives. I would sum it up by saying it's reasonably comfortable, the seats are more comfortable than the suspension, the view out is okay apart from over your back shoulders, well that's true of every modern car, and it's reasonably relaxing to pedal along. So yeah, pretty good. Let's go back to me for some sort of outro. Right, to sum up the ID.7, I'm going to start with its strengths. Firstly, it's not an SUV. Hooray! And that is not just good because I'm a bit of a snob and I like saloon and estate cars, but also it's great for efficiency in electric cars. And the fact they're getting 382 miles on paper out of this, out of a 77 kilowatt hour battery is really good. And the bigger battery is obviously going to do over 400 on paper. But realistically, this has already lost 60 miles, but it's still more than 300 miles in the real world. Have I said miles enough? Good. Other good things, the seats are really comfortable, the infotainment is really nice to use, it's got all the tech you could want and then some more. On the downsides, I don't think it looks especially special for the £56,000 asking price, nor is the suspension as good at ironing out bumps as I think it possibly should be. Otherwise, it's a relaxing drive, it's a spacious car, it'd be practical for a family, and I'm excited to see what the estate version is going to be like. I'm going to give it 7.5 Tim Roadies out of 10. Thank you for watching, like the channel, like the video, subscribe to me, touch my face, and I'll see you next time. I think I got those words in the right order. Oh yes, go down to the comments and leave me the German word for we stole our light bar from the Frenchies.